It's the Trevor Kirczenow podcast with Trevor Kirczenow, your Liberal candidate for Provencher.
Hi, everybody.
So what do you want to say first?
Well, we live on a farm in Provencher riding, a small farm. We have some horses and goats, chickens and turkeys, and 2 kids. I am a professional musician, but I've also done a lot of other things as well. I've done some health research work around transgender parenting. I'm the breed registrar for the Ojibwe Horse Society. That's something that I really enjoy being involved with. The Ojibwe horse is Canada's only Indigenous developed horse breed. What else do you want to know?
I don't know. I'm not only married to him, I'm also the campaign manager, so I've got to keep you in line. No, I don't. But yeah, let's get into the topics of the day. This is day 1 of the campaign, or actually it'll be day 2 when we publish this thing. So we're on to day 2. What's important for you, right off the hop?
I think the big issue that's really weighing on everyone's minds in the whole country, definitely in Provencher, but in Canada as a whole, is our relationship with the United States and how we are going to deal with President Trump. It's really scary for a lot of people. I'm hearing a lot of anxiety, especially around the economic instability, this tariffs on, tariffs off, tariffs on, tariffs off, that businesses don't know what's going to happen and they can't plan.
Right. Because trade is so entwined between our countries. Even here in Provencher, I was speaking with one small business owner and saying, well, look, how is this tariff issue weighing on you? Is it affecting you? And they say, this is on our minds constantly.
Yeah, and I think for people who are worried about affordability as well, this kind of economic instability is only going to make that worse. So it's really scary.
All right, so getting down to the Liberal plan for this, obviously this is something you can't particularly plan for when you talk about instability. So right. How do you address instability? What do you feel like the Liberal Party has to offer, and maybe you in particular?
Well, I really like Mark Carney. I really appreciate that he is a very experienced economist who's seen Canada through some difficult times before. I feel like he's pretty predictable and reliable and dependable, and those are characteristics that we really, really need during these very unpredictable times.
Mm-hmm. And people are talking a lot about standing up for sovereignty right now, but it seems like people are on different parts of the equation. There are people who say, well, we should maybe consider that having a closer partnership or even being part of the United States is something to consider, which I have no idea really personally where that comes from. But most people are, we've got to say, adamantly opposed.
Yeah, I don't think I've met anyone yet in Provencher who wants us to join the United States, but I've been told that such people exist in Provencher.
Yeah, actually,
I'm sure I'll be talking to some of them soon.
Well, that's an interesting point. If you do have that point of view, please do write in your comments, or even if you have a strong point of view on the subject, please do write in to info@trevor-liberal.ca, and we will address comments and questions and such in later episodes as we go through. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try. I have a hard time understanding that particular perspective, but it's fascinating to me that it's out there. I have a degree in political science, and so I can be quite fascinated by things like this that happen. Just kind of from that more academic perspective, but but at the same time personally feeling like no, I want to play the Canadian anthem on my violin every day. Like, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, that's right. He's been upstairs practicing the national anthem. But
I got a really, really nice version of it going. Like, I added in some beautiful double stops and chords, and I think it's sounding really good, actually.
That's all very fancy sounding. Well, I know what you're talking about, so I'm going to pretend. What's that all mean? We'll have to find out. But I've noticed, like, you were trained as a classical musician, so you're actually, I'm hearing real fiddling going on up there. What's the difference?
Yeah, the instrument is the same. Like, it's the exact same instrument, but the style of playing is quite different. The bowing is different, and of course the tunes are different. And the last little bit, I've really been enjoying getting into Manitoban fiddle tunes specifically.
Yeah, Andy DeJarlis. Like, and there's
he was from the riding. He was from Woodridge.
It's really interesting. Yeah, all the titles of his tunes are from places around here.
Yeah. There's like the Winnipeg Reel and the Manitoba Waltz and stuff like that. There's one that has the Golden Boy in the title.
Yeah, so on the campaign trail. Well, I think it's neat that you'll have that going on your campaign events.
Yeah. This time around, this campaign, I want to play my violin at campaign events because I think, it's such a difficult time for so many people. People are so worried and anxious, and this election is incredibly important and super serious. But also, I want to try to bring just a little bit of joy to it as well, from time to time at least, and be able to share something beautiful with people.
Right. So, should we get to headlines?
Sure, yeah.
There's some things.
Look at the Carillon?
Yes.
See,
let's look at
see what's in there.
Here's a letter to the editor. We won't read the whole thing, but this is published Monday, March 24th. Can we weather the economic storm? And I'll read a little bit of it. How about? When Donald Trump got elected in November, almost all of our conservatives in Manitoba, including members of parliament, countless pastors, pro-life people, anti-LGBTQA plus organizations, they all celebrated in view of a bright future, a golden era to come, full of hope to get rich instantly, of getting rid of minorities, seeing a big blow to anything even remotely liberal. Have all those people ever listened to an election speech given by Donald Trump or J.D. Vance? Or were they all deaf when they should have heard what the Republicans' plan was in regard to the economy, taxes, and Project 2025? And all those who celebrated Donald Trump's election success were, you guessed it, not liberals, but conservatives, called by Donald Trump his great friends in Canada. And you can go and read more about this. It's in the Carillon, as I said, on the Monday edition. And they say, since then, we know that the economic storm heading against our country with the goal to get us in submission, we have 2 ways to react, with weakness or with strength. So,
I think it's like, it was so eerie to see those similarities in the language that conservatives in Canada had been using up until incredibly recently, that like they really sounded an awful lot like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the MAGA Republicans, and now they're very rapidly trying to distance themselves from that, but that's what their plans had been, for sure.
So it's not just like sometimes they say there's a difference between fiscal conservatives and social conservatives. That somehow, like the social policies, like the deportations, the anti-LGBTQ policies, whereas there are also the fiscal policies. But in this case down there, like it seems to be the conservative agenda is going full steam, and it's steamrolling all sorts of people.
Well, and it's almost like the conservatives are not conservative anymore. I think when we think about like a traditional conservative view, that word conserve is part of the idea of like, let's maybe be a little cautious. Let's be careful about what we have and protect the economy. And that's definitely not what Donald Trump is doing. I don't see anything truly conservative in his approach. It's incredibly extreme, and it's like he's just trying to blow everything up down there.
Well, is it libertarian?
It's authoritarian. It's what it is. Yeah.
Now, do you think that Canadian conservatives are really cut from the same cloth? Like, okay, they're distancing themselves, but is that authentic? Like, I mean, we can't.
No, I don't think it's authentic. And I mean, you look at what somebody like Danielle Smith in Alberta is still saying now. She's not trying to distance herself because she's not in the midst of an election campaign for a start.
She's now saying, "Oh no, I never went down to the United States. I've never tried to solicit."
She's trying to backpedal.
Solicit foreign interference.
Even she is trying to backpedal. But
well, Mark Carney was asked about this issue, and he just said, "I'm not meeting with Donald Trump unless he says full stop, Canada is a sovereign nation."
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that makes sense. It seems like a massive waste of time to try to do what Trump wants for a start, because he's changing what he wants every other minute.
Yeah.
And you can bend over backwards to try to please him, and then the next day it'll turn out, oh, that wasn't what he wanted anyway, and those tariffs are still coming.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of people are going through a grief process too with this whole thing, because we've relied on the United States, and so we've not, or if not relied, that friendship has been so strong. And I think of when I was...
People have family members in the States and really close friends that they want to visit, that they want to see, and now a lot of Canadians are worried about even trying to cross the border.
Yeah. So that's a lot for folks to process.
It is a lot.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as the Liberal candidate, I mean, I guess you're going through it as well as everybody, but what's your sense of what you bring to that equation, I guess?
I really appreciate the Liberal Party right now for protecting the diversity of our country and protecting Canadian values in Canada. I guess one of the reasons that I first joined the Liberal Party had to do with its stance on human rights. That's really important to me, and that hasn't changed for the party in all the time that I've been a member. I'm transgender myself, and I feel protected and supported by the Liberal Party, that I can live my life and feel safe. Mm-hmm. Raise my kids.
Let's go to another thing.
Another article. Okay.
Another article.
Sure.
This one is how about Think Again. This is Michael Zwaagstra's column. Again, this is from Sunday, March 23rd. And he writes, "What does the Liberal Party of Canada stand for? Are there any enduring principles that remain constant regardless of political circumstances? Only one: gaining power, power, power." Okay. The Liberal Party exists for the purpose of winning elections and holding on to political power. The moment a policy becomes politically inconvenient, Liberals are quick to jettison it. Well, you just said something that's like the opposite of that. So,
yeah, I mean, the Liberal Party is a big party. It has a lot of members, and we're not always going to agree on everything, but there are some very basic policies that you have to agree to support in order to be a candidate for the Liberal Party, and one of them is support for 2S LGBTQIA.
Well, that's
rights.
interesting. So, as a candidate, you had to sign like a declaration of, or what did you have to go through?
Yeah. I mean, there's this like huge nomination package and all sorts of stuff that you have to sign, and then in what they call the green light interview, I was interviewed by a lawyer, and we talked about those things, and she asked me if I still support the party's positions on that issue, and also reproductive rights. There's a few really key issues that the Liberal Party holds near and dear, and yeah, to be a candidate, you have to agree with the position on those issues.
So you don't feel like those are going to magically change?
No.
Okay, well, here's one thing that Michael says has changed. As he gives it, for example, in the 1988 federal election, Liberal Party fought against a free trade agreement with the United States, saying it was going to erase the border. I remember that I was like a young Liberal and working and saying, like, yeah, free trade, and I was worried about the cultural part of it, too, because we were protecting Canadian culture up here, cultural identity. Right. CBC, there was a number of...
there were a lot of Liberals who were opposed to free trade and NAFTA
at
the time, and it was Brian Mulroney, a conservative, who really made NAFTA happen, which I find a lot of people seem to have forgotten, because in the last little while I've heard people saying, well, you know, it's Trudeau's fault that we're so integrated with the U.S. and we're just so dependent on the U.S. Because of these past 10 years, and I keep thinking, no, that's not when NAFTA started, and once that was in place, and everything became so integrated, as we're seeing now, it's incredibly difficult to disentangle these economies.
I don't think we can really blame anyone in Canada for Donald Trump. And these policies that he's implementing are not just coming against Canada, they're going against the world.
Right, but we're more deeply affected by any other country in the world.
But you're right you're right that people gloss over that, because the next thing that Michael says is, fast forward to 1993, when the Liberals won a majority government. Not only did they keep the free trade agreement, but they brought Mexico in on it. Well, I mean, at that point they were not like free to jettison the agreement. That's right. I mean, that's what Trump is doing now. He's jettisoning an international agreement under which we've all operated. Right. I mean, did Chrétien really have the... I don't know. I mean, we'd have to go into the history of this. I don't know that he really had the capacity to do anything other than like try to renegotiate it at that point. Right. Well, anyway, like you made a comment earlier in the day about how sometimes people try to simplify to the point where the arguments don't make sense, and you had a word for that kind of argument.
A false dichotomy?
Yeah,
so is that what you mean? A false dichotomy is when somebody's trying to argue that there can be either option 1 or option 2, and 1.5 is not possible. There's no such thing. And I guess the situation I'm thinking of right now is when people say, well, either we can pay attention to climate change and try to protect the environment, or we can do what's good for the economy and what's good for business. That's an example of a false dichotomy. It's a false choice. We don't have to choose one or the other. We could actually do both. We are capable of doing both.
Yeah, so getting back to what he mentions about the carbon tax, that it just seems like he's saying, Carney, I don't know what he's saying really. That he ends up saying that the Liberal Party stands for one thing and one thing alone: gaining power. I mean, it just sounds very ominous, but is that just fear mongering? Is it true that a political party only exists to get political power?
I mean, I guess you can't do a lot if you're not elected. So if you want to...
Okay, so...
if you want to do things, you do have to try to be in power somehow.
Yeah, I mean, people do you hear this all the time that people get into politics either that they want money or fame or something like that. I mean,
that is definitely not why a Liberal runs in Provencher, right?
well, okay, like, yeah, there was a bit of that kind of, especially last time. I mean, things are shifting this time, but the last election, people were like, give it up, what are you doing this for? And
well, I do it because I think that having these conversations is incredibly important. And especially right now, we need to have these conversations.
Yeah, and like you say, in an authentic way, not just in a sort of a cartoonish way like Michael Zwaagstra goes about it. And if he wants to write in a rebuttal, he may. Info and anyone.
Or maybe we could do a podcast with him.
Okay, the gauntlet has been thrown down. Michael, it's time to put down that pen and come in and sit in the hot seat here and have a conversation about these things. So, by the way, he's an elected politician. He's deputy mayor.
He is. Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
I guess he wants power.
Ah, that must be it. Info at trevor-liberal.ca if you want to get in touch, and we'll bring up some topics on the next podcast. And also we're going to be planning some events, and you're going to get a chance to hear Trevor's fabulous fiddle playing coming soon to some events near you.